Character agency is defined as characters making decisions that affect the plot. Passive characters are put in situations outside of their control by no fault of their own, and things just happen to them. Active characters inspire reactions in other characters and their environment. Character agency exists on a spectrum. Some people think that a passive character is a character that doesn't make a single decision in the entire story. They think if their character makes one decision that affects the plot, that their character is automatically not a passive character. But active characters make decisions that affect the plot throughout the course of the entire story. In general, the more your character affects the plot, the better the character and the story become. This doesn't mean that your character needs to be active the whole time. You can start with a passive character that slowly becomes more active as the story progresses. Passive characters can be more relatable than a character that is always in charge. This is especially true if your character knows that they're passive and they feel frustrated by their lack of control. This helplessness can help your audience relate to your character and sympathize with them. In Breaking Bad and Good Girls, the main characters turn to a life of crime in order to get out of debt. Because they were put in debt by no fault of their own, such as illness, deception, and a custody battle, we feel more sympathy for them than we would have if they had put themselves in that situation, which is exactly what an active character would do. The characters start off just reacting to their situations and dealing with the fallout of their initial crimes. Later on, the characters become more active as they grow more comfortable with their life of crime and as they realize that they were unfulfilled with their previous non-criminal lives. At the point that crime becomes a choice, that's whenever the characters go from being passive to active. Character agency should have an ebb and flow rather than being something to shoot for 100% of the time. Something happens to the character takes an action, and then the environment or another character reacts to their action, and the cycle continues. A completely active character is overpowered. If they're in total control, then there's no challenge or threat, which can be really boring. That's why it's important to have a balance of action and reactions. Character agency is often lacking in horror. Horror is perhaps the one genre where a writer can get away with limiting character agency in the name of demonstrating how helpless humans are to stop the horrors of this world. We can't stop terrorist attacks, plagues, wars, or the violence that we see in the news, so why should we be able to stop monsters, aliens, and eldritch abominations? If the nihilistic ending is what you're aiming for, the best way to achieve this is to give the illusion of character agency before stripping it away. Watching characters struggle to survive while knowing the whole time that their actions are futile isn't as satisfying as having at least the smallest shred of hope that the characters might be able to get out of their circumstances, even if the moral at the end of the story is humanity's ultimate powerlessness over their lives. Having said that, it's usually better to give characters a chance to survive. If they do fail, it's more interesting to let it be due to their own personal demons than due to an overpowered antagonist. Like in Rose Red when Joyce died because she wouldn't leave the house due to her obsession with proving herself. A good example of character agency in horror is the film You're Next. The film was praised for the active approach the main character takes to a home invader situation. In most home invasion movies, the main characters run and hide, and only fight back when directly confronted by the intruder. Or worse, they fight back and then run away right after they gain the upper hand. But the main character in You're Next sets traps for the home invaders and hunts them down. She doesn't just react to the people trying to kill her. She actively executes plans to ensure her own survival. She puts the antagonists in a position where they are reacting to her actions, and it creates a compelling story and character. Of course, the more powerful you make your protagonist, the more powerful your antagonist needs to be. This is especially true in horror. Remove the danger too much, and your story loses the horror element that drew your readers in. To evaluate character agency in your story, ask yourself, does your character actively work towards reaching their goals, or do things in your story just happen to bring them closer to their goals? Coincidence and luck are the enemies of character agency. The harder your character works towards trying to achieve their goals, the more satisfying it is when they do, or the more heartbreaking it is when they don't reach those goals. If your character ends up not wanting what they thought it was that they wanted and they want something else, that bait and switch has a much stronger punch if your character had to work really hard for whatever it was they thought they wanted. Here are a few other questions you might want to ask yourself to decide if your character has agency or not. Is your protagonist coming up with ideas for how to reach their goals, or is someone else giving them all the answers? Do your supporting characters even have goals outside of helping the main character get whatever it is that they want? What other motivations could your supporting characters have that would make them more complex? Giving a supporting character a motivation outside of the main character's goals can help make that character feel more realistic. And if that supporting character's goals conflict with the main character's goals, that can create drama and make the plot more compelling. And one last thing. Writers create passive characters when they don't know what their characters want. So figure out what your character wants, and it'll be much easier to write an active character. I hope this video has given you a new perspective on character agency. For more information on this topic, as well as subjects such as world building, monster creation, plotting, and much more, be sure to check out my class at the Writing Barn. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in class.